Switching gears, General Motors has announced plans to cut its U.S. electric vehicle and battery production due to a weakening demand.
They used to be the symbol of power, freedom, and success. The American pickup truck, once built to haul steel, tow trailers, and survive the desert, has become something else entirely. Chrome grills, digital dashboards, and price tags rivaling luxury sedans. But behind the shine lies a storm that's about to rip through the heart of the auto industry. Across the United States, thousands of brand new trucks sit abandoned on dealership lots, unsold, collecting dust. Their gleaming paint fades under the sun while manufacturers quietly panic. For years, automakers have pushed the narrative of the unstoppable demand for bigger, more expensive trucks. They built more factories, raised prices, and convinced millions of Americans that owning a massive pickup was part of their identity. Now, that illusion is crumbling. Prices for new pickups have soared over 60% in just a decade. Some trucks now cost more than a small house in rural America. And for the first time since 2008, defaults on truck loans have hit record highs. More than 1 in 5 new truck owners owes more than the vehicle is worth. Families who once thought a pickup was an investment now find themselves trapped, drowning in debt, unable to sell, and unwilling to buy again. Dealers are desperate. Videos have started to leak online. Salesmen begging customers to take trucks off the lot, waving massive discounts that don't really exist. The so-called dealer incentives are riddled with fine print, hidden fees, and conditions that most buyers can't meet. Behind the scenes, showrooms are empty, staff are being cut, and automakers are quietly freezing hiring and slashing marketing budgets. What caused this collapse? It wasn't inflation, it wasn't technology, it was greed, plain and simple. For years, companies layered on features nobody asked for: touchscreen dashboards that glitch, tailgates that fold like origami, and luxury interiors in vehicles meant for construction sites. They built a fantasy around the pickup truck, selling not a tool, but a lifestyle. And now that illusion is falling apart. Meanwhile, a new threat has appeared. Electric startups like Slate and Tesla are rewriting the rules. Promising functional, fully electric trucks for under $20,000, they're shattering the myth of scarcity and exclusivity. Traditional automakers can't compete, not because they lack technology, but because they've priced themselves out of the market they created. By 2026, analysts predict the inevitable. Prices will crash. Used truck values could plummet by 30% or more. New models will shrink in size, cost, and ambition. The mighty American pickup, once the backbone of the working class, is on the verge of becoming a relic of corporate excess. This isn't just a story about vehicles. It's a story about culture, identity, and the illusion of endless growth. The truck that once built America may now symbolize something darker, the greed that broke it. The question isn't whether the crash is coming. It's already here. The only question left is, who will be left standing when the dust settles? For decades, the pickup truck stood as the beating heart of American identity, a symbol of freedom, endurance, and honest labor. It was more than just a vehicle. It was a statement, a reflection of the nation's self-image: rugged, capable, unstoppable. From the dusty roads of Texas to the icy backroads of Michigan, the pickup wasn't just transportation, it was tradition. But somewhere along the way, that tradition was sold, polished, and repackaged into something else entirely. The working man's truck became a luxury status symbol, and the dream that once powered the American pickup turned into a trap of debt, greed, and disillusionment. Back in the 1990s, a basic pickup cost less than $15,000. It was simple: no screens, no heated seats, no chrome grills the size of billboards. It was built to haul lumber, towboats, and get dirty. Today, that same truck, or what automakers claim is its evolution, starts at over $60,000. Some top models exceed $100,000, a number that would have been unthinkable 2 decades ago. Manufacturers justified it with talk of innovation and advanced technology. They said buyers demanded luxury and sophistication. But the truth is simpler and darker. The industry discovered that emotion sells better than function. Ford, General Motors, and Ram realized that the truck had outgrown its working-class roots. By turning it into a lifestyle product, they could sell the illusion of strength to anyone with a paycheck and a credit score. They wrapped necessity in aspiration and marketed it as identity. The strategy worked for a while. Between 2012 and 2022, U.S. pickup sales hit record highs, even as the cost of living soared. Automakers made billions, reporting margins higher than any other vehicle segment. But beneath the surface, cracks began to form. By 2024, dealers across the Midwest started reporting something unusual: inventory piling up. Thousands of brand new trucks sat unsold row after row, shimmering under the sun like silent monuments to corporate overconfidence. In Texas alone, an estimated 90,000 pickups remain unregistered, vehicles built for buyers who no longer exist. Some dealers have resorted to renting additional lots just to store the overflow. "We used to have waiting lists," said a former GM dealer from Kansas City. "Now we have waiting lots." Meanwhile, the cultural meaning of the pickup began to shift. No longer a tool for work, it became a status object for suburban families, a kind of oversized accessory to middle-class aspiration. A truck that once belonged on a construction site was now more likely to be parked outside a Starbucks. This transformation, though profitable at first, alienated the very customers who had built the industry. Farmers, contractors, welders, the backbone of the market, began walking away, priced out of the machines that once served them. Adding to the illusion, automakers poured millions into marketing that bordered on myth-making. TV spots showed trucks climbing mountains, forging rivers, and rescuing communities from storms. Heroic visions completely detached from the reality of their use. Yet the truth is that less than 15% of pickup owners ever tow anything heavier than a lawnmower. The modern truck became a fantasy, built for a life that most buyers never lived. By late 2024, a quiet resentment began to grow. Forums filled with posts from disillusioned owners. "I bought a truck to feel independent," one comment read, "but it's the thing that's chaining me down." As loan payments rose and fuel prices bit deeper, owning a pickup started to feel less like freedom and more like financial captivity. Insiders whispered that consumer trust had reached a breaking point. The American pickup had lost its soul. What was once a machine of purpose had become an emblem of excess. It's no longer about hauling, towing, or working. It's about appearances. And when an industry built on grit starts selling glitter, the fall becomes inevitable. The first cracks are already visible. Rows of unsold trucks, empty showrooms, and a generation of buyers who no longer see themselves in the vehicles that were supposed to represent them. The symbol of American resilience has become a monument to its own arrogance, and the story of how it got there is only just beginning. The roots of the pickup crisis run deeper than most industry executives are willing to admit. On the surface, it's easy to blame inflation, rising material costs, or supply chain chaos for the ballooning prices. But those explanations only skim the surface. The real cause lies in years of unchecked greed, reckless production, and a dangerous faith in the myth of endless demand. What began as a calculated bet on consumer loyalty turned into an unsustainable spiral of overpricing and oversupply, a perfect storm of corporate arrogance that now threatens to collapse the entire truck market. Throughout the 2010s, automakers rode a wave of optimism. Interest rates were low, credit was cheap, and Americans were buying trucks like never before. Ford's F-Series alone generated more annual revenue than some Fortune 500 companies. Executives looked at the numbers and drew one irresistible conclusion: there was no ceiling. They expanded production, added new assembly lines, and flooded the market with models no one had asked for. By 2022, more than 3 million pickups were rolling off U.S. production lines each year, far more than the economy could realistically absorb. But to Wall Street, these numbers looked like growth. The reality was rot. Dealers began warning manufacturers about slowing sales as early as 2023. "We've got too many trucks, not enough buyers," one Midwest dealer wrote in an internal memo that later leaked online. But automakers brushed off the concerns. They pointed to record profits and booming pre-orders for luxury trims. To keep margins high, they doubled down on features and price increases, often by hiding them behind new technology packages. A basic truck that once came with manual seats and cloth interiors now included 12 cameras, automatic tailgates, and touchscreen dashboards running software nobody needed. The sticker prices rose accordingly. Between 2014 and 2024, the average cost of a full-size pickup increased by more than 65%. The problem wasn't just greed, it was detachment. Executives sitting in corporate offices in Detroit and Dallas forgot who their customers were. They weren't designing for welders, mechanics, or farmers anymore. They were designing for imaginary buyers, people who didn't exist outside of marketing focus groups. They built trucks for status, not for work. The interiors became softer, the suspension smoother, the exteriors flashier. They even introduced a luxury work edition truck that came with massaging seats and a built-in espresso maker, a gimmick that became a social media joke overnight. Within 6 months, the model was quietly discontinued. At the same time, production was accelerating beyond reason. Factory managers were under enormous pressure to keep the lines moving, even when demand was falling. Whistleblowers later claimed that some plants were running at 120% capacity in late 2023, producing thousands of trucks that had no confirmed buyers. One worker at a General Motors facility in Indiana recalled parking finished vehicles on the edges of nearby farmland because the official storage lots were full. "We had nowhere left to put them," he said. "We were building trucks for ghosts." Meanwhile, automakers kept raising prices under the pretense of technological innovation. They blamed inflation, even as their profit margins swelled to historic highs. In 2024, the average profit per pickup sold by major manufacturers surpassed $14,000, a figure once reserved for luxury imports. Yet instead of reinvesting that money into affordability or quality, most of it went to shareholder dividends and executive bonuses. The system became self-devouring. Higher prices led to fewer buyers, which led to more unsold trucks, which led to higher prices again to cover the losses. The narrative couldn't hold forever. By early 2025, the lie began to unravel. Inventory data leaked to independent analysts showed that up to 28% of all new pickups in the US were sitting unsold, the highest figure since the financial crisis of 2008. Consumers, burdened by inflation and rising interest rates, simply stopped buying. The market that had once seemed infinite was suddenly finite, and the illusion of invulnerability was shattered. The manufacturers blamed the economy. They blamed supply chains, weather, even changing tastes. But deep down, they knew the truth. They had built too much, charged too much, and believed too much in their own myth. The American truck, once a symbol of practical strength, had become a monument to corporate delusion. And now as the storm gathers, the companies that once ruled the road are running out of excuses and out of time. By 2025, the storm that had been building for years finally began to break. The signs were everywhere. In empty showrooms, restless buyers, and desperate salesmen waving discount banners that no one believed anymore. The era of unstoppable truck demand had come to an end, and both consumers and dealers were caught in the wreckage. For ordinary Americans, the pickup had turned from a symbol of power into a burden. Loan payments that once seemed manageable had grown unbearable as interest rates climbed. A $70,000 truck financed on a 7-year loan could now cost nearly $1,200 a month, not counting insurance and fuel. For a growing number of buyers, that was more than a mortgage. Defaults began to rise quietly at first, then suddenly. Within a year, delinquency rates on truck loans had doubled. Some dealerships in Oklahoma and Nevada reported entire lots of repossessed vehicles. "I thought I was buying independence," one former Ford owner wrote, "but all I got was another bill I can't pay." The emotional fallout was as real as the financial one. Trucks had long been tied to identity, a sign of reliability, masculinity, and success. When that image cracked, so did the pride of millions who had bought into it. In rural towns from Montana to Alabama, small protests began to appear. Owners parked their pickups outside dealerships with hand-painted signs reading "Not for sale" and "Bring back the working truck." Local news stations aired interviews with laid-off welders and farmers who couldn't afford repairs on vehicles that were supposed to be tools, not trophies. One man in Idaho became briefly famous for returning his $80,000 GMC to the dealership and demanding a refund on live television. The video went viral. Within days, it had millions of views, and for the first time, the truck industry had a PR crisis that couldn't be brushed aside. Inside dealerships, the panic was tangible. Salesmen who had once earned commissions with ease now spent their days pacing between rows of unsold trucks, checking their phones, waiting for customers who never came. Many dealerships began to offer absurd promotions: free maintenance for 5 years, zero-down financing, even vacations included with purchase. One Texas dealer promised a buy one get one half off event for pickups, a marketing stunt that quickly became a meme. But no matter how creative the offers, buyers stayed away. "We've turned into carnival barkers," one frustrated salesman said. "We're not selling trucks anymore, we're begging for survival." Manufacturers tried to contain the bleeding. They launched value editions, stripped-down versions of their trucks with fewer luxuries and smaller engines. It was a move meant to reclaim the working-class buyers they'd alienated. Ford's Heritage Workline model was marketed as a return to basics. No touchscreen, vinyl seats, manual windows. But the price still hovered around $45,000, far beyond what most tradesmen could afford. The gesture came too late. Years of inflated pricing and hollow promises had eroded trust. Surveys showed that more than half of potential buyers believed truck prices were artificially inflated, while 37% said they no longer saw a pickup as a practical investment. Behind the scenes, the automakers' financial departments were in crisis mode. Profit margins that had once soared above 15% collapsed into single digits. Layoffs began to sweep through corporate offices and factory floors. Advertising budgets were slashed, new model launches delayed, and research projects quietly shelved. A leaked memo from one major automaker revealed internal panic. Consumer confidence in the truck segment is deteriorating faster than expected. Market correction could exceed 30% by Q3 2026. Executives who had once bragged about limitless growth now spoke only of stabilization and damage control. But while the legacy automakers scrambled to patch the holes, a new breed of competition was rising. Electric startups, companies that only a few years earlier were dismissed as toys for tech enthusiasts, suddenly looked like the future. Slate, a California-based company that no one had heard of 5 years ago, stunned the market with its $19,800 all-electric pickup. It wasn't luxurious, it wasn't even pretty, but it was functional, efficient, and, most importantly, affordable. Within months, Slate's pre-orders topped 300,000 units, forcing major players to take notice. Tesla's Cybertruck, long mocked for its eccentric design, began to see a resurgence in demand as fuel prices climbed. Even smaller players like Rivian and Atlas started cutting into the market with flexible financing and modular designs. What made these newcomers dangerous wasn't just price, it was attitude. They weren't selling nostalgia or tradition. They were selling utility, sustainability, and accessibility, the very things the traditional truck industry had abandoned. Their marketing spoke directly to practicality. No chrome, no gimmicks, just performance. They offered transparent pricing online, breaking the old dealership model that consumers had grown to hate. In contrast, legacy brands continued to rely on confusing discount structures, hidden fees, and financing traps. Buyers noticed the difference. Forums that once celebrated gas-powered giants like the Silverado and Ram now buzzed with praise for minimalist electric work trucks. The cultural tide had turned and it wasn't coming back. This transformation went beyond technology. It was generational. Younger buyers, many burdened by student loans and housing costs, saw no sense in paying $80,000 for a symbol. They wanted something that worked, not something that postured. Older drivers, burned by high payments and mechanical failures, began trading in their massive trucks for compact hybrids or used electric vans. Dealers across the country started reporting a curious trend. The average size of the vehicle being traded in had decreased by nearly 20% over 2 years. The era of bigger is better was officially over. Still, the cultural shock inside the industry was immense. Executives who had built entire careers around selling masculinity suddenly found themselves irrelevant. Focus groups that once responded to built tough slogans now rolled their eyes. Advertisements filled with roaring engines and dust clouds were replaced by quiet, practical pitches about efficiency and maintenance costs. Even the soundscape of truck commercials began to change. Less thunder, more silence. It was the sound of an empire deflating. Meanwhile, digital manipulation added another layer to consumer distrust. Some automakers used online configurators that displayed unrealistically low starting prices for trucks that didn't actually exist in that configuration. Buyers would spend hours customizing their vehicles online, only to discover that the advertised model lacked essential features or wasn't available in their region. Lawsuits began to emerge in states like Texas and Colorado, accusing manufacturers of deceptive pricing. One particularly damning report showed that the average discounted price advertised online was still 18% higher than what had been promised in digital ads. By the end of 2025, the truck market had fractured into two worlds: the legacy automakers clinging to their shrinking empire, and the disruptors rewriting the rules. Dealers who had once moved hundreds of trucks a month were lucky to sell a dozen. Corporate offices were cutting costs, and stock prices were bleeding out. A sense of disbelief hung in the air. Not just that the crash had come, but that it had been so clearly predictable. The same executives who had once laughed off the electric threat were now begging for partnerships with the very startups they had mocked. And yet, for the first time in decades, something honest was beginning to emerge from the wreckage. As the luxury bubble burst, a new vision for the American truck began to take shape. Smaller, simpler, built for purpose rather than prestige. It was as if the industry, humbled by its own greed, was slowly remembering what it had forgotten, that a truck's worth isn't measured in chrome or horsepower, but in what it can actually do. The age of excess was ending. What comes next will decide whether the pickup can reclaim its soul or fade into history as the cautionary tale of American overconfidence.